Welcome back to FR UK Rugby. Here's a question for you. Why is it that France produce so many incredible scrum halves? We've seen in the opening 3 rounds of the Champions Cup, man of the match performances from a bunch of this crop of French petit generals. Why do they have so many that are so amazing? More so than any other country on earth. To help me answer that question and to give us a bit of information is from the winter son of Brive, Joe Worsley. Joe.
It is a fascinating reason that so many nines come out of the French rugby scene. I think it's due to how they play rugby. We've talked about it a lot before. How they read the play, they accelerate the play. A lot of that acceleration is due to the nines being the most tuned in to that collision that's happening, and they're the ones who can pull the trigger and go for it. Okay, so that's probably the main reason. We can get into that in more depth later, though.
I'll tell you what, but yeah, before we start, let's just talk about this crop. We've seen them in the Champions Cup. Antoine Dupont, obviously best player in the world, and he had a tough old time of it in the heat of Durban. Still did some amazing things, but we know about him. Obviously, I'll definitely pick your brains on him. But there is Baptiste Seran is just playing incredible rugby. And what's he? 3rd, 4th choice?
Yeah, I think he's 4th choice ahead of Couillou, who's at Lyon. But he is a player I had as a youth, 18 years old at Bordeaux. You can see in training straight away these special players. You can see they do incredible jaw-dropping skills, and then in match time they step up to the plate. He is 4th choice because whilst he is capable of doing try the year moments, which you probably saw in one of the last games, he is also capable of making errors. And a 9 that makes errors, you touch the ball so many times that those errors can come back and bite you in the arse. And I think the reason he's down the ranking is because of that.
Maxime Lucu is 32. Nolan Le Garrec is 22 at different points in their career. But, I mean, I don't know, just both incredibly talented. What are the strengths of each of those guys?
I think a 9 has to be competitive, alpha male, little tiny angry man who can make a difference and get forwards riled up and get in people's faces. I think most good 9s are along those lines. Now, Lucu's that guy. He's less talented probably than all the other 9s you got there, but he works harder, he's more competitive. He is a bloody good player as well. He kicks well, he can run well. He can accelerate the play, but he's someone who probably brings everyone else into the game a bit more and gets the competitive side of the team raised up. So the reason he's 2nd choice, I think, for France is because of that. Competitive, kicks really well, makes pragmatic decisions, and can bring occasional moments of brilliance. Less than the others, but enough.
And then there's a lot of Baptistes at scrum half in France. There's 2 others, Jonot at Clermont and Couillou, who was at one point 3rd choice for France. Those are the final 2. Quick word on them? Yeah,
so they're both very dangerous runners. They both score a lot of tries in the top 14. So they're players who can make line breaks, can make match-winning moments. Jonot's good at coming through for Clermont. He's really young still. He's kind of Jason Robson-esque at times about how he can step and beat players. Couillou is a more power, just speed and going for the space when it's there, and got that winger's nose for scoring a try. So those 2 they're down the list, but again, 2 very good players. One of which could develop and become someone who makes the bench for France when Dupont's fit.
So Dupont, Lucu, Le Garrec, Seran, Couillou, Jonot. What is it that links those 6 players and others that we haven't even mentioned? What is it about France that produces these players? What do they share? What are the qualities?
It's jouer. We say in England, jouer. And jouer in England, when we say it's like, sort it, I'm going to throw the mad offload or something like that. But in France, it's different. Jouer means it's the moment to play. So sort everything else. There's a space by the ruck, I'm going to go for it. There's a space out wide, I'll pass it there. There's a space behind, I'll tap it there and kick it there. Now, the French 9s have been in this environment since they've been kids. They've been given the liberty to play what they see in front of them since they've been kids. And as a result, they learn incredible volumes about collisions and what's going to happen next. And they can anticipate so well what's going to come their way and what's going to happen after this next ball carry, that they're already, when the ball's being recycled, understanding what's going to happen and what I'm going to do. Okay? Players around them need to support them, and that is vital. If players don't support them, then they're going to get turned over. But these 9s are the guys that pull the trigger more often than anybody else. So throughout their career, dozens of times a game, they're deciding to, okay, now I've got to do this, instead of following a plan. like would happen in a lot of other rugby nations.
So is it the prestige position in the way that fly half is in England?
I don't think there's too much differentiation. It's more the halfbacks are the charnière, the halfbacks are the halfbacks. The fly half's called the opener. So they, for example, he's more someone who will bring other people into the game. It's more an attitude about that with them. So I don't think there's more emphasis on one or the other, but certainly it's more equal. Most of the prestige in the UK would go to the 10 as opposed to the 9, but in France certainly the 9s are the stars, but that's because most of them are super talented. Jalibert and Tamak aren't bad, but they're not quite as held up in esteem as they are in the UK.
Yeah, I was just thinking, as you were saying that, and with my sort of Englishman hat on, I was just kind of thinking, I wonder if they'd been born in France, George Ford, Marcus Smith would have been 9s.
Yeah, I think at least they would have played both positions. Because remember, I think all of those nines at some point have probably played 10, be it because of injuries or be it starting at 10. A lot of them, 3 or 4 of them have started at 10 for their clubs in top 14 games. Some of them play for France at 10. So, because they learn as a halfback group and they learn to speed the play up and understand it thoroughly, I think it gives that ability to play multi-position. It's a real talent and something that differentiates. I'm trying to think, do any of our English 9s play both positions? Play 9 and 10?
That's a really good question.
I don't think so. I'm not sure at all.
In the comments?
No.
There must be. But no, I think you're right. It's the sort of thing that only happens if there's like a red card and someone needs to slot in or something, or an injury and there's no one on the bench.
Yeah, I think it's more just in England we have a plan. We have a plan. Your job as 9 is to do this. So you get so specialised at doing that one thing, you're not really going to dip into someone else's shoes. Where in France, like we talked about, there's been emphasis since they've been kids on the liberty to play when the right moment is there, jouer. So if you're doing that, then you're picking up 10 skills when you're someone else. Sometimes you're not near the ruck when the jouer moment happens, so you've got to be able to see it from far. And then someone else passes you the ball and you play like a 10. So yeah, it's just a different environment that's created players that it created situations where it's just developed so many 9s. It's incredible number of 9s coming through here.
And in that game in Durban, one thing I noticed, and you notice it every time you see Dupont play, is the number of times he very rarely passes just straight off the deck, like a classic English scrum half would be. Get to the breakdown, feed off the deck. He sort of bounces out and fixes those first couple of defenders. Is that like culturally how French teams play, or is he unique?
I think Toulouse are the epicenter of that French way of playing. They are the most extreme version of it who do it really well. They don't have a system. That's kind of how they play. If the ball is not so good, he'll probably pop that to someone else. But as soon as the ball's 2 to 3 seconds, he'll start to run with it and start to pick holes and to make line breaks or pass other people into the game and do that part of the game you're talking about. Also, he is capable of it. He's really fast. If there is loads of defenders near the ruck, he can pass it as well. So he's good at making decisions around there. Some other players aren't quite the same. Luku's more a player because he lacks that speed. He would bring Jalibert into the game a lot more, for example, and feed him more than a player like Dupont would. It's just different skills, athletic abilities mean they make slightly different decisions.
And finally then, rank those players. I think, we don't need to talk about who's number 1.
Yeah.
After Dupont and Six Nations is coming up and Fabien Galtier's got to make this call again.
Yeah, so it's still Luku for me because the 9's touching the ball a lot. At international level, you make 1 or 2 mistakes at 9, they're going to cost you. Okay, you make several mistakes, it's really going to cost you. Luku makes less mistakes, and Le Garric's probably third. I'd say because he still is young. He's getting better and better and better. He still can make errors that can lead to turnovers, which at international level can be punished. Couillou, Genot and Baptiste Serin. I think Serin for me is number 4. Okay, so Luku 2. We're going to go for Le Garrick at 3. And we're going to go then for Baptiste Serin, Couillou and Genot as the last 3. The reason for that, again, is a little bit kicking ability for Genot, but it's, again, making too many errors. At international level, there's a sweet spot between brilliance and trying stuff and making too many errors in your team not being able to dominate territory, get the right field position, or every turnover you do will be punished at international level. That sweet spot is really important. So we talked about French jouets. If you go too far the wrong way, your team's going to get obliterated. So with jouet, it's risk. You get it wrong, you overplay. You think you're better than you are, then you can end up making turnovers which cost the team. Dupont doesn't do that. Okay, Lucu doesn't do that. Le Garrett does it a little bit, but he's getting better. So that's why those three are at top of the podium at the moment.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because Saran would walk into England, Wales, Scotland, Australia, Argentina, and he'd be competing with Ireland and New Zealand as well. It's just, and South Africa, he'd start. It's just insane. Joe, I appreciate that. Your thoughts, if you have a different ranking for the French nines, let us know in the comments. Hit subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.